Thank you. Welcome to the Senate Committee on Education. Today is Monday, April 11th at 3:00 p.m. We are in hearing room 229. This meeting, including the audio and video of remote participants, is being streamed live on YouTube. You will find links to viewing options for all Senate meetings on the live and on-demand video page of the legislature's website. This Zoom meeting and YouTube live stream event will include this 3:00 p.m. agenda for the Committee on Education. In the unlikely event that we have to abruptly end this hearing due to major technical difficulties, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business on Wednesday, April 13, 2022 at 3 p.m. in this room, and a public notice will be posted on the legislature's website. I'd like to take this time to remind our testifiers that due to time restrictions on our hearings, we will be limiting testimony to 1 minute per testifier per bill. For people participating remotely, please remain muted and video disabled until shortly before it is your turn to testify. When I call your name, unmute yourself and your time will begin. After your minute is completed, staff will mute you so that we can move this hearing along in an orderly and efficient manner. Thank you. Okay, first on our agenda is GM 815. However, we are deferring this measure for this nominee Justin Yu, just for this time period to end that expires June 30th, 2022. However, we are hearing GM 816, which is for Justin Yu for the Hawaii Teacher Standards Board for a term to expire 6/30/2026. And to testify on GM 816, we have no testimony. Is Justin Yu present, please? Oh, hi, Justin, please. I have a habit of looking at the screen because that's all we've had for a long time. So how pleasant to have people in the room.
Yes, same here.
Thank you so much for joining us, Justin. I think in your response, you to the committee, you noted the ongoing shortage of licensed teachers in our DOE classrooms. And I wanted your opinion on how you see Hawaii Teacher Standards Board's work contributing towards closing this gap.
Well, certainly, we would have to make sure that in spite of the gap, in spite of the shortage, that we don't bend rules, because it's important for us to always have a highly qualified licensed teacher in every classroom. Students deserve that, and we must maintain that for the public confidence in our education system.
And how do you plan on using your next term to address this issue, Tristan?
What I need to do is to be kept up to speed, is what it is, because I was on the board for a number of years and I needed to sit out 1 term. At that time, and that's by statute. So I was not able to be a part of board business. So we need to be kept up to speed by the board chair on this, and to see if in the action plan, to see what needs to be done. And I want to be a part of that plan.
Thank you for that, Justin. You did mention in your questionnaire that there were some, what you felt was unfinished business, and which is one of the reasons you want to return to help address these issues. So you talked about that the HTSB staff, including executive director, works for HTSB, but not vice versa. This has implications for contested hearings. Could you explain that, please?
Sure. I was put into the role in the last terms to sit on it's called a hearings panel of the HTSB. And I was always elected as the hearings officer. So what's important to know is that there's a separation of duties in terms of the HTSB staff and the HTSB, we say the board, of which I had sat on and which I'd like to continue to sit on. So we make decisions. We hire, actually, we do hire the staff, you know, so that's why there's a separation of duties. Why I put down, I'm sorry, as I was leaving, the board chair asked me asked me to help with the hearings in terms of documenting the work that we did. So we did work with our Attorney General, Deputy, to make sure that what we do follows the protocols set aside under the Hawaii Administrative Rules. So we made a document to say, this is what we do and how we conduct business. Why did I say unfinished business is because I did go on the website and I looked at the education preparation programs. So that's part of the question, Senator Kidani, your last question about how we're going to make sure that we have more teachers available is to look at the educator preparation programs. So we have to make sure that they follow the rules in terms of being accredited so that they can be considered a viable program. Now, what I saw was a red indication for one of the programs called, I think it's called Moreland, and it was red that they were decertified by the board. So there's got to be some unfinished business there that that needs to be attended to. So I am really to follow the protocols is very important. The national standards for both educator preparation programs as well as for the licensing to follow exactly what we have there. Again, is to maintain the integrity of what we do. So we're not going to just be signing off as much as making sure that the programs meet the standards as well as the teachers that are being licensed meet the standards for licensure.
Thank you for that explanation, Justin. And you pointed out another concern, and I hope that if you are confirmed, you will get back to this committee with maybe an answer to this one. You said, there remains a shortage of licensed classroom teachers. This is in spite of HTSB issuing licenses to hundreds of teachers each month. Where are these teachers going? So you don't have to answer now, but I think that's a question that we all are asking ourselves too.
Are you? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, questions for Justin Yu? If not, thank you very much, Justin.
Thank you, Chair
Appreciate it.
Kidani.
Next on our agenda is GM 783. Submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Early Learning Board, gubernatorial nominee Benjamin Naki III for a term to expire 6/30/2025. Is Benjamin here, please?
Good afternoon.
Do you have an opening statement that you'd like to make, Benjamin, please?
Sure, I'll be very brief. I've been serving on the Early Learning Board in different capacities, most recently as the Head Start provider rep. And before that, the home visitor rep. So I think this is an opportunity to me to extend and contribute to the Early Learning Board as they're moving forward with coordinating a early childhood network in Hawaii. So looking forward to, if I'm confirmed, another couple of years, 2 or 3 years, I believe. So
Thank you for that. We have Robert Peters on Zoom to testify in support. Robert, please.
Thank you, Chair Kidani and members of the committee and Vice Chair Kim. The Early Learning Board offers testimony in strong support of Benjamin Naki III continuing to serve as the Head Start provider representative on the Early Learning Board. Thank you for the opportunity to support Ben's application.
Thank you. And also Colleen Momohara, is Colleen here, also in support. Ben, I appreciate your willingness to serve, and I know that you're currently serving, so in your response, you note that EOEL implementation plans should be grounded in at least one of the 5 goals in the early childhood state plan. And for those listening in, the ELB was established as a governing board through Act 202, Session Laws of Hawaii 2017, and is responsible for directing the Executive Office of Early Learning on how best to meet the developmental and educational needs of children from prenatal care to entry into kindergarten, providing recommendations to EOEL on improving the quality, availability, and coordination of early learning programs, promoting collaboration across agencies and stakeholders serving young children, and appointing and evaluating the EOEL director on an annual basis. So, of the 5 goals you are advocating for, talk about investing in expanded home visitation for families with newborns, contribute to help implement collaborate plan from the county to the state level to coordinate resources and services and simplify access for families. Invest in expanding public pre-K and increasing capacity in the full range of early care and education settings. Be a part of a broader group of stakeholders creating new models that increase compensation and support for early childhood workforce. Invest in data tools and infrastructure and help gather and share data to inform statewide efforts for our children and families. Do you know if our EOEL board is actively working on any of these goals now?
Yeah, there's different, let's say, yeah, actually, the Early Learning Board has several committees that kind of oversee the different components of the early childhood network that they're trying to coordinate. But EOEL also, I believe, is doing a lot of good work around gathering data, meeting with different partners. There's a lot of people doing the work. That's why. So it's the effort is bringing them all to the table to figure out what would best suit the different communities we have here in Hawaii. So they are doing the work.
Thank you for that. Also, Ben, you know that you believe the ELB has the right composition, and the ELB chair has repeatedly told this committee that ELB will be taking up board composition in the next year. So some of the questions asked previously is that what about the neighbor island representatives? Is that something that we should look at? But recognizing that already it's a very, very large board,
Yeah.
17 members, I think,
Yeah.
Which does make it difficult. So any
Yeah.
ideas there?
Yeah, I think the conversation has been throughout the years of how large our board is, but also the neighbor island representation is much needed. I think right now there's from the county of Nares, I think there's two board members when we have 4 counties. So we'd like more representation from the other islands outside of Oahu. I think just there's a limitation right now with the current statute as far as who can serve as part of those 2 neighbor island positions. But the other way is also Head Start is all on the other different islands. So fortunately, we provide service. I'm a Head Start provider rep, and I provide service. We provide services on Oahu, Hawaii Island, and my fellow colleagues also provide services on the other islands. So I have a responsibility also to share what's happening on the other islands in regards to early Head Start and Head Start. I can bring some of that voice to the Early Learning Board and EOEL.
Also, I believe that we still have not hired the executive director for the EOEL. And how is that search going? It's
I
been vacant
believe-
for a while.
Yeah, I believe, and offer was made, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's nearing. I don't know the details. We do have a meeting this week, so we'll probably get more information at our next early learning board meeting. But I believe selection was made. Just not sure what the outcome was of that selection.
Thank you for that, Ben. Members, any further questions? Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have GM 566, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Early Learning Board, gubernatorial nominee Kaiulani Laeha for a term to expire 6/30/2022. And I will take that together with GM 567 for the same person, Kaiulani Laeha, for a term to expire 6/30/24. Is Kaiulani here?
Aloha, I'm here online.
Just wanted to know. To testify, we do have Bob Peters on Zoom.
Good afternoon again, Chair Kidani and Vice Chair Kim, members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to provide supportive testimony, strong support for Kaiulani Leha's continuation as an early learning board member. She is ideally suited to and qualified for the Hawaiian language medium provider seat on the board, has already made distinctive contributions in our conversations and deliberations to date. We strongly urge her continuation. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Kawanoi Kamana in support. Colleen Momohara in support. Kaiulani, would you like to make an opening statement, please?
Sure. Aloha, Chair Kidani, members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to seek confirmation to continue working on the early learning board. It's been a really great opportunity for me to be involved in the conversations. You folks know that the board is comprised of a significant amount of experts in early learning. So it's been a real pleasure to be able to serve with them, to learn from them, and also contribute when possible. I have been participating in the meetings as a board member for a little over half of a year now. And prior to that, I kind of just listened in as a community member to try my best to keep up with what was going on in the early learning community. So mahalo nui.
Thank you. So Kaiulani, what goals do you have to see that the Executive Office on Early Learning achieve whatever their goals are?
I think that one of the most pressing things is that director seat being filled, and making sure that we can support that director in their new role, and kind of get them a lay of the land on seeking new kind of partnerships, collaborative efforts, making sure that the EOEL staff continues to seek, access for or consider all the different types of providers that we have. So I think that would be a goal of mine, is just really to make sure that director position is settled, and that we can get off on a good start with that individual.
Thank you. And also, while you are being appointed to represent the Hawai'i medium early learning providers, the board's responsibilities extend from prenatal to entry into kindergarten. As a board member, how will you ensure that EOEL meets its statutory obligations to create an early learning system that is widely accessible and voluntary for both those served and program and service providers, that is cohesive, comprehensive, and sustainable, that provides high quality early learning experiences, that offers opportunities for family and community engagement and parent education and support, and also is sensitive to family choice and cultural diversity.
Mahalo for that question. My experience at Aho Punana Leo, I think, has really helped me to build a better understanding of not just what our programs do and who they're marketed towards, which is typically infant through kindergarten ready, and that's through a child care center. But the HME pathway is representative of all families that choose Hawaiian language for their children. So, you know, that includes our staff members, our program alumni, our community partners who choose Hawaiian language for their keiki, and they're going to face the same decisions that every other parent faces. Will their children attend a child care center? Will they stay at home with their grandparents? Will they take off from work and stay home with their children? So in response to this question, it really made me reflect on what it means to be that Hawaiian medium seat. And it is extensive. It is not just, you know, particular to a certain site or a certain preschool program that is done in Hawaiian language, but it's really in representation of all Hawaiian language speaking ohana.
Thank you. My final question is, do you anticipate being able to objectively promote this mission, even if it negatively impacts or does not prioritize Hawaiian medium early learning providers?
I will be able to objectively promote the mission of ELB. I think that part of the state plan actually calls out, and what we went over earlier actually calls out the need for that sensitivity toward and access to Hawaiian language programs. I think that they're not, I think that they are mutually inclusive, and also carrying out the ELB mission would be serving the HME early learning providers well. So I do think that I could do that.
Thank you for those thoughtful answers, Kaiulani. Members, are there further questions, Kaiulani? Thank you very much. Moving on. Our next item is GM 757, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Early Learning Board gubernatorial nominee Megan McCordison for a term to expire 6/30/2024. To testify, Shannon Olivado.
Good afternoon, Chair Donnie, Vice Chair
afternoon.
Kim, Senators Kanuha and Favela. Thank you for this opportunity to support Megan, Dr. McCorston to the Early Learning Board. Megan, as I know her, will bring a big voice, I think, from the early learning community, especially from those serving in the 2 to 5-year-old range. And with Seagull Schools as Executive Director and CEO of Seagull Schools, serving children in Honolulu from the west side to the windward side, her practical experience will add voice to the Early Learning Board, and I think Megan would be ideal for this position. I think all of us have been challenged by the pandemic, but I think within this area, serving children, our most precious children in their developing years from 0 to 5, 2 to 5, she has shown that her representation of the children and families has been optimal and always in their best interests. And we at Seagull Schools are proud of her accomplishments, especially given that we have not necessarily shut down our schools to parents within most of the time. So with that, I ask for your support of this GM 757 of Dr. McCorston. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Shannon. Also to testify, we have Robert Peters testifying for the Early Learning Board.
Thank you, Chair Kadani. I've known Megan McCorston for about 10 years as both the executive director of Ho'okako'o and now in her role as CEO of Seagull Schools. Not only will she bring the voice of center-based providers, an important voice in our early learning community, but she will also bring the vantage point and the perspective of someone who has served both in the public and the private sectors, both of which we need to fulfill the early childhood learning opportunities for our keiki. So we offer strong support for the acceptance of Megan McCorston to serve as a new early learning board member. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Was there anyone else here who wants to testify on behalf of this nominee? If not, Megan, please. Would you like to provide some opening remarks?
Sure. Aloha, Chair Kidani and Vice Chair Kim and the members of the Senate Education Committee. The last 2 years of the pandemic have put my leadership experience in both public and private education into stark perspective. As the Chief Executive Officer of Seagull Schools, one of Hawaii's largest center-based childcare providers, I have witnessed firsthand the effect of school closures due to the pandemic on the children and families in Hawaii. A lack of early education exacerbates the existing disparities in health and education, especially for the most vulnerable in our community. My belief in access to a high-quality early education for all students is what compelled me to apply for the center-based childcare seat on the Early Learning Board. I hope that my 20 years of experience in public and private education, locally and internationally, will help the EOEL meet its strategic goals and objectives. It would be my honor to serve the community in this capacity. Mahalo for your time.
Thank you. Megan, while you are being appointed to represent center-based programs, the board's responsibilities extend from prenatal to entry into kindergarten. As a member, how will you ensure that EOEL meets its statutory obligations to create an early learning system that is widely accessible and voluntary for both those served and program and service providers?
Well, I think, as a new board member, I think the collaborative approach to this strategic goal is really critical because it's going to take a lot of community partners, public and private sector, I think, to increase access, most importantly. And within access, I think that's a very broad definition. It requires, we know there are a shortage of childcare spaces and care for 0 to 5-year-old children. So we not only need to increase access in terms of programming, but the facilities and the workforce development critically, because I think right now, as I've referenced, the pandemic has really exacerbated the shortage of qualified, high-quality workforce. And those would be my focuses without knowing, too much about what's already been discussed in meetings. That would sort of be my focus leading into this.
But how will you ensure that as a board member, EOEL meets these goals?
Well, I'd, again, be working collaboratively with everybody to ensure that their targets are being met in terms of, they sound pretty ambitious to open new schools. And I hope there's a focus on rural areas and those that are hardest to reach in our vulnerable communities.
How do you foresee yourself meeting the statutory obligations as a board member to direct the office on how best to meet the developmental and educational needs of children from prenatal care to entry into kindergarten, and to provide recommendations to the office on improving the quality, availability, and coordination of EOEL?
So again, I would just look at, not only the quantity, but the quality of programming out there available, and making sure that we are meeting those targets and doing everything we can to increase the number of children and families that are served throughout the state, not just here on this island.
What resources do you believe EOEL needs to accomplish their mission?
Right. Well, the biggest challenges I see facing us right now is the provision of high quality, free early education and prenatal services. And So the accessibility, the affordability, there are issues with facilities as well, and most critically, workforce development issues that I think we have a long way to go before we resolve those issues. And I really am keen to collaborate with other community partners and higher education institutes to ensure that we're developing our workforce capacity in all of those age groups, because I think we're really lacking and we're headed for, much like other industries that are essential to the community, we're headed for a disaster unless we really look at how to develop the workforce in this area and make it attractive for people trying to work in this workforce.
Thank you for that. Members,
Yeah.
are there any further questions? Thank you so much for being here. and for your-
Mahalo for the opportunity. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to our final item on the agenda, GM 689, submitting for consideration and confirmation to the Early Learning Board, gubernatorial nominee May O for a term to expire 6/30/2024. To testify, Bob Peters, please.
Thank you, Chair Kidani. May O would be a new member of the Early Learning Board. She has a strong professional background in early childhood and family resources. Her current position with the family Hui really focuses on that portion of the community her seat represents, the parent community, really working to engage families, to meet their needs, and to respect them as their children's first teachers. The Early Learning Board strongly supports May's application for appointment to the Early Learning Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Tracy Garma. Is Tracy with us? IT, is Tracy there?
Not present, Chair.
Thank you. Her testimony was in support. Is May present? Come forward, please. Would you like to make some opening remarks?
Good afternoon, Senators. Good afternoon, Chair Peters and everyone in the room. I wanted to thank you for the considerations for being the parent representative for the Early Learning Board. I'm very passionate in the early learning field, and myself have a really young child that I'm learning as I parent, and I'm really excited for these opportunities to be and serve the communities and to bring the best to our children.
Thank you for that. In your written response to our committee, you stated that expansion of available public pre-K programs should be a priority for the Executive Office of Early Learning. What goals do you want to see EOEL achieve?
I'm very excited to have that, to know that EOEL is working towards the public pre-K programs. And I personally know a lot of families, and being in the field, working hand in hand with a lot of families, knowing that a lot of families are having hard times trying to find the perfect, perfect pre-K programs to meet their child's needs. So it's very excited to see and in supports with particular goals.
So how would you foresee EOEL meeting these goals?
So a saying has introduced to me. If you look at a house from just one window, you see just one side of the house. If you look at a house from multiple windows, you can see multiple perspectives of the house. But if you go into the house, you can feel and connect and support and really feel what the house is. So I think that when I saw the goal, when I saw this goal, that was the first thing that comes to my head is when with the board positions, that's what we need is to feel, to know, to see the needs of the families and to work from there on to really feel the needs in the community. And the goal is to fill the needs of the community. To move forward with that is we should open and be and get and understand, and we communicate with the community to see where the families' needs are and move forward from there on.
I like your perspective because the EOEL house has many, many windows. I wanted to ask, I'm not sure I asked this of anybody else, but I think there was some concern that there's not enough representation from the neighbor islands. And do you feel that there needs to be someone that can represent neighbor islands on the board also?
I think having a representative from each of the area is ideal. I think what we need to do is to take a look at the strategic priority of what we want to do and see what we have and see what we need, and then recruit from there on.
And they already have a board membership of 17, which I feel is too large and very difficult to accomplish goals and get the board members on a track that they all agree on. So I'm not sure how, Bob, you have your work cut out for you. Final question. Why do you believe that the parent perspective is a valuable one to have as a board member?
I myself as a parent, having someone and something there for me, knowing the needs for my child and meeting the needs of my child and understanding where myself coming from as a parent, I think is important. There could be services out there, but if it doesn't meet the needs of me as a parent, I won't go to that services, right? So I think it's important we understand the needs of a parent, provide that service that meets the needs of the parents and the children and overall as a family. And every family is different. And then learning the differences amongst every families will give us opportunity to serve and to meet the needs. When the parents get their needs met, that's a huge foundation for us and the children to build forward our future.
Thank you for that. Members, are there any further questions for Ms. O? Senator Kim.
Thank you. I know I haven't asked the question, but do you think that early education should substitute for what the parents should be doing with their education for their child age? And do you think that sometimes parents will utilize early education as a way of substituting so that they can do other things and be free from having to actually provide some of that kind of learning that should come from the family unit?
It depends on each family's compositions, right? Some family really needs the early educations because their goal, for example, myself, as when I first moved here years ago, my first thing my mom told me is that get a good education and build your future. So for my mom, it's very important for her to see me succeed and move forward with a good education. Now I have other friends or other people who has similar situation where, you know, I need childcare so that I could contribute. I need childcare so I could contribute to the society. I need childcare. I need someone to provide care for my child, that perfect care, that supportive care, so that I could contribute to the society, so I can contribute to the workforce, and from there on. right? So it depends on each family's dynamic and the needs of each family. So every family is different, and that's what we're here for, to take a look at what the needs of every family so that we could build a good foundations to meet as many families that we can, so we could support the childcare needs, whether it's for educational purposes, whether it's for childcare purposes, whether it's for other purposes, to fill that need so that adults in the family could do what they want to do to contribute to the workforce, to contribute to the society, or to contribute and sit in the early learning board.
But public education can't be everything to everybody. And there's just not enough resources to custom everything to every single family. And education is one thing as far as academics, but what about the social side? What about the family learning? What about the values and the culture that needs to be taught at home? And is that, are families looking at early education to substitute for that kind of learning? And we're finding that the generations that is coming up may have lost some of that because many of us overachievers wanted to give our children more than what we had. And so we were busy working and putting our children to further their education so they can compete and succeed. And yet somewhere along the line, they've lost some of that family values that we were taught.
And that comes to family engagement is so important. So when we service the family, when we come with all these goals and objectives that we want families to succeed, definitely we want to make sure that we are mindful with that, with the family's value, and promoting that family engagement is another important things that we need to consider. Sharing, make sure that we provide these families tools where we could, where they could learn others, open their opportunities for other things, and also be able to share their family values to make sure that their family values continues in their child's social and emotional learning.
Okay, thank you. I just hope all of the members, when they sit on the board, will take those kinds of thoughts into consideration. And it's not just an academic learning, but it's certainly the whole child. And a lot of that depends on the family and the family unit. And we cannot be all things to every child and every family. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I believe in the whole child, supporting the whole child.
Thank you, Ms. O. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? If not, I'm going to take a short recess. Calling the Committee on Education back to order. Member, the chair would like to recommend that we advise and consent on all of the nominees that are before us today. I want to thank them all for being willing to serve. I know that this takes time out from your busy schedules, and this is not a paid position, and that you will do the best that you can for the children of our community. With that, and hearing no objections, members, the chair votes aye to advise on consent on all our GMs today.
Okay, we are voting on GM 816, GM 8783, GM 566, GM 567, GM 757, and GM 689. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye to advise on consent. Senator Dela Cruz, is excused. Senator Kanuha.
Aye.
Senator Favela. With 4 members present, 1 excused, recommendations adopted for all GMs.
Thank you. And the GM 815, again, members, no action was taken due to that GM being withdrawn by the governor. Thank